Kia ora, welcome to Central's news for Thursday the 4th of September. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Safe Water Alternative New Zealand has withdrawn from their judicial review against Hamilton City Council's decision to reintroduce fluoride into the city. This means that no High Court hearing will take place and that fluoride will remain in Hamilton's water supply. The date for the hearing was initially set for next week, Tuesday the 9th of September. No costs will be sought from Safe Water Alternative New Zealand as part of the settlement. Tauranga City Councillor Gail McIntosh is seeking public feedback on where the controversial 75-metre Waka Pavilion should sit if it comes to Tauranga. Tauranga City Mayor Stuart Crosby confirmed to Sun Live on Tuesday that discussions to place the $2 million pavilion on Tauranga's waterfront for 2 to 5 years were underway between various city organisations. Gail is in support of the idea but is opposed to the proposed location on the Strand. A strategic working group, understood to include individuals from various organisations including Priority One and Bay Venues Limited, is assessing a proposal to bring the pavilion from San Francisco and reassemble it on the Strand Reclamation, ideally before the end of the year. The 75-metre lozenge-shaped pavilion was originally designed for the 2011 Rugby World Cup and was first displayed on Auckland's Viaduct. It was later shipped to San Francisco as part of the Team New Zealand America's Cup campaign. Dairy supply company Open Country Dairy Limited has been convicted and fined more than $35,000 for discharging objectionable odour from its Waharoa factory at the time of last year's spring flush when milk supply was high. Residents from the Waharoa community near Matamata complained to Waikato Regional Council that the odour was causing physical effects such as nausea, vomiting and an inability to sleep. Some complaints spoke of having to adapt their lifestyles by keeping door and windows shut, not hanging out washing, leaving Waharoa to escape the odour and keeping children inside. The council received 45 complaints from local residents over 16 days in October and November last year. A late comeback with a flurry of tries was too late, too little for the Bay of Plenty Steamers, losing 29-27 to Manawatu in Palmerston North last night. Trailing 12-26 with 10 minutes to play, the Steamers scored 12 points in 3 minutes through prop Mike Kainga and hooker Joe Royal for a tense finish. But from the ensuing kickoff, the Bay boys were unable to keep the ball in hand, knocking the ball on, gifting Manawatu the ball and the game. Waikato has made 4 changes to their starting lineup for their Week 4 ITM Cup match against Tasman in Nelson this Friday night. In the forwards, Josh Honeck comes into the front row to replace Ben Tamiafuna, who is awaiting the outcome of his judicial hearing. Hooker Braden Mitchell is back in the run-on side, and Marty Hola will start at number 7 as Zach Honeck sits out with a knee injury. There is one change in the backs with Jordan Payne slotting back in at centre after missing the North Harbour match. On the bench, prop James McGowan and halfback Harrison Levine make a return to the playing 22, and hooker Harry Jones comes in to replace the injured Hame Faiava. Now for the marine forecast for Friday. West Coast, Raglan, you've got a variable 10 knots and a moderate northwest swell rising. Your high tide is at 20 to 7 tomorrow night. East Coast, Bay of Plenty, northeast 25 knots, gusting to 35 knots, becoming a northerly of 10 knots in the morning, rising to 15 knots for a time in the afternoon. Rough sea easing in the morning, but there will be poor visibility and periods of rain with thunderstorms turning to showers in the morning. Your high tide in Tauranga is at 5:17 in the evening. Still to come on Central News, summer ice on the Kaimai Range and weather for tomorrow. But up next, the housing accord. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Apparently, Western Bay residents love the small town feel. Councillors, staff and the Mayor found out on a recent road trip. They toured the region aiming to get community feedback on what matters most to them. One of the key factors for people wanting to live in the region was local employment opportunities. I spoke with Mayor Ross Patterson to find out if there really is a lot of opportunity in the Western Bay for employment.
No, we're like most other regional areas. We are struggling. The big cities seem to be where the economic growth is at the moment, even though the rural rump of the country does provide most of the income. We were looking at being a facilitator in local employment, and we have our employment facilities, our units within there working with the community. We have our community development and our economic sections working out there with the community to help on the employment side. It's not easy. We are very seasonal with kiwi fruit as well. So in the off season though, we find that employment rates go up, but they drop once we get into the pick, pack and orchard scene.
What are these employment opportunities?
No strong growth industries. We have local industries. We have some specific export areas within the communities throughout the district. But no massive growth. It's mainly the pack house. In the east, aquaculture is being part of it, and we do find a little bit in the production log forestry industry and timber, that side of it, and just the general work within orchards and farms. Within the towns, a little bit of service industry, but the main growth, export-related growth or service industry is Tauranga.
There has been a bit of talk lately of almost an exodus of people moving from Auckland to the Western Bay, mainly for the lifestyle, but more importantly for affordability. Did you see some evidence of that out there?
Yes, we are seeing that, especially north of, in the northern area, in the Katikati area, the Waihi Beach area. We're finding a lot of people coming in from Auckland. They are in a fairly good cash position because of house prices in Auckland, and can move into an area like Katikati, which has a beautiful lifestyle and climate that they appreciate, close to the coast. Can buy themselves a house, settle in there and still have some money for investment as well. So that is one of the things we're seeing now coming out of Auckland. People are saying they've had enough of the big super city and the pressure and the transport and getting around, and they're looking for a bit more relaxed style of life, and we have that there.
And do you think the council should be encouraging that?
It will be, because demographics are showing that our ages within our population is increasing, and that we will have a higher than New Zealand average for those over 65s going forward. I think we're running at about 32% now, which is well above the New Zealand average. So we actually now need to start to focus on how we provide for those people, their lifestyle, their recreation, how we can provide for them in employment. They might want part employment. So there's a whole range of new factors coming that a council like us is going to have to look for.
There will be a new housing accord. Is that going to help affordability in the Western Bay?
We're working with central government on that and have signed a contract, and we have under the housing accord special housing areas. We are looking at a Mokoroa because it already has infrastructure in place as being possibly our first area. We also own some land there, so we are in a position where we can work with developers, give them a fast track system to get through the resource consents on building, and to give them capacity to be able to get efficiencies of scale, and by having a reasonable side subdivision. And when we look at affordable housing, it's not cheap. We're not talking cheap housing. We are talking maybe smaller sections, 1 or 2 bedroom houses, possibly 2-storey duplexes, just a different way of doing things. But we need a housing accord to be able to change our district plan to bring that in place at the start of that exercise.
When is this housing accord going to be signed off?
We've signed it off 2 weeks ago with the Minister. It is now operational, and now we are starting to talk to developers, and we will be going out to the community and those landowners that are in those areas that we're talking about, to talk to them, to bring them on board and let them understand just where council's heading and how we wish to help them go through subdivision and develop what they want to do.
There were 6 themes to the road trip. Can you explain some of these and how they kind of correspond with life in the Western Bay?
It really was touching on their lifestyles within their different areas. Some of it was the recreation side, some of it was youth, some of it was around land production, and some of it was the goodness, the fruit and the produce that we produce in our areas, and those roadside stalls that people find so exciting when they stop and see what's in there to buy. So that was some of the themes that we had on our portraits and what we took out. That's what we thought is the face of the Western Bay.
Some feedback was people would actually like to see more promotion of some places as tourist destinations. How will the council do that?
Well, those are what I called our economic providers before. We have a arrangement with Tourism Bay of Plenty. That's a sub-regional arrangement, and they work right across the North Island to bring people in and to look after that domestic travel side. But underneath that, though, we have areas within Katikati, Waihi Beach and Te Puke where we have small economic groups that are working on the ground in those areas, liaising with Tourism Bay of Plenty to develop those tourist opportunities and that those areas of activity that those people are looking for to bring them into the area.
To find out about the Council's road trip, visit westernbay.gov.nz. Coming up next, summer ice explained and how it can be more dangerous than black ice. Welcome back to Central News. Around 9,000 vehicles, including 1,300 heavy vehicles, make the trip over the Kaimai Range every day. It's also a route known for its steep landscape and unpredictable weather year-round, which makes it perfect for a nation-first weather-activated speed trial. A 12-kilometre stretch of the highway between State Highway 28 on the Waikato side and Soldiers Road on the Tauranga side will be part of the 2-year trial. This exact stretch has unfortunately seen 3 fatalities in the past 6 months. I spoke with NZTA's safety expert.
Yeah, the Kaimai Summit is a particularly tricky piece of road in adverse weather conditions. The police actually have a high presence up there in those conditions. And what we're looking to do is use a Met Service weather station located near the summit of the Kaimais to actually both predict and determine when there are adverse weather conditions up there. And we will use that information to look at lowering the speed limit during those adverse weather conditions and attempt to try and calm traffic speeds down.
Where is this weather station? What kind of weather is it monitoring? What kind of weather will change the speed limit?
The weather station's located about 2 kilometres on the Tauranga side of the summit. It's been there for a number of years now. It's in a metal stockpile area. People may see it as you drive in over the Kaimais. It can detect wind conditions, it can detect rain, it can detect moisture on the road pavement, it can detect ice, pavement temperature, and we're going to modify that as well so it can detect visibility and fog and cloud conditions. And we will probably look to lower the speed limit, and not all of those, but in a number of those conditions.
Of all the roads in New Zealand, why have you chosen this stretch in the Kaimai Range of State Highway 29?
State Highway 29 is a nationally strategic road corridor, but it actually does have the 7th highest crash risk of state highways in New Zealand out of 170 links across New Zealand. And also we monitored that through the period through the 2000s, over the last decade, and it was a highway where the crash risk actually increased over that period while the overall road toll in New Zealand was coming down. So it's one that we need to determine what we can do about it. But because it is nationally strategically important, we don't want to lower the speeds over that in all conditions. It's important to keep freight moving and keep people moving in the right conditions. And so this seemed an obvious candidate for looking at whether we can just manage speed in those conditions which are most dangerous to drivers.
Can you give us an example of certain types of weather and the speed limit that will be associated with that weather?
Probably the most dangerous conditions up there are actually in very light rain, particularly after a long dry period when we have this phenomenon called summer ice. And so the road surface gets covered in detritus and it polishes up a bit, and you add a little bit of dampness to that and it can become very slippery. So the conditions we're really looking to lower the speed limit on would be light rain, heavy rain, and ice. We will also look to lower it in fog and low cloud conditions. But those actually aren't our most treacherous conditions. In those conditions, drivers do tend to slow anyway. What we're looking at is two defaults, one on the western side, so the Waikato side, of 60 kilometres an hour, and one on the Tauranga side of 80 kilometres an hour. The trial would allow us to have speed limits anywhere from 30 kilometres to 100 kilometres an hour in 10 kilometre hour increments, but we're really looking for two defaults, and that's 80 kilometres an hour on the Tauranga side and 60 kilometres an hour on the Hamilton side in ice, wet road and rain and fog conditions.
Out of curiosity, which side is more dangerous?
The greatest number of crashes actually occur on the Hamilton side, and you'll often see the fence knocked down on that side. However, the more serious crashes actually occur on the Tauranga side, and that's primarily because speeds are higher. On the Hamilton side, speeds are lower because of the tight, curvy alignment, and so we have lots of incidences there, but usually lower severity crashes.
What are the statistics like? How many serious crashes are on that stretch of road?
When we started looking at this project, between 2007 and 2012, there were over the entire Kaimai range, from Tauranga to the turn-off on the western side, there were 196 reported crashes, and of that, in that 6-year period, of that, there were 3 of them resulted in fatalities and 14 resulted in serious injuries. And about 73% of those were reported in wet road conditions. So it's a very high proportion associated with wet road conditions. However, we've also had 3 fatalities in the area near the summit this year alone. And again, those 3 fatalities were on wet road conditions.
It is a major freight route, so does that add to the danger of the road?
I think that the number of trucks on that highway, and there is about 1,300 a day, does add to the complexity of the traffic issue on that highway, because what it does do is gives a wide distribution of speed, and so you have trucks going along very slowly and some cars going along very fast. So you have a wide spread of speed, and hence a real demand for people to slow and then overtake and speed up, etc. So I think they add to the complexity of the traffic problem.
Coming up next, it's festival time in the Bay. Welcome back. The 1st of September saw the official launch of the inaugural Garden and Arts Festival programs and ticket sales. But it's not the only festival coming up in the Bay. I caught up with the ladies of Creative Tauranga.
Seems there's a lot of festivals coming up, Tracy. Can you tell us about the Garden Art Festival?
Yes, they're about to launch their program and ticket sales as of the 1st of September, so I know everyone's anxiously awaiting to see what the program is this year, and I've had a little sneak preview myself and it's looking pretty exciting. So yes, certainly check out the Garden Art Fest website or pop on to our Facebook or website pages and you can read an article on some of the delights coming up with the Garden and Art Festival.
And the Waterfront Festival as well?
Yes, that's its 2nd year, 20th of September. That'll be a fantastic day down on the waterfront. There'll be a lot of entertainment, including stories from our local librarians from the Harry McCleary series, which we of course always get excited about. Possibly one of the sculptures on display as well, because we're in our final fundraising effort at the moment. But no, there'll be something for everyone. It'll be a really grand day down there on Sunday the 20th of September.
How is Harry McCleary coming along?
He's coming along, Hilary. Slowly but surely. We're just in the last throes of fundraising. We would like to think we can gift the sculpture project to the city by Christmas. So anyone is welcome to make a donation and have their name recorded as a donor for the project, and pop on to givealittle.co.nz, just type in Harry McCleary and it'll take you straight through to where you can donate. Every dollar counts, and it's a fantastic legacy gift for our city going forward. So we'd love to see some new donors coming through.
And the Creative Communities funding, what's that?
Yeah, so that's a scheme that we look after here at Creative Tauranga. There's 2 regions the scheme covers, the Western Bay of Plenty and Tauranga City itself. There's 2 rounds each year, and if you're running a community project that is arts focused, then you're more than welcome to apply to the fund. Just check out our website, www.creativetauranga.org.nz. All the forms are there, and also my contact details if you'd like to ask questions or have help with your proposal development. We can help you with that as well.
What kind of projects have you funded in the past?
So we fund things like performing arts, visual arts, workshops, equipment for example, our community pianos. We've funded some wheels so they're more sturdy to roll around the town. We fund pretty much every single arts project that is community based, has a youth participation focus, and is also going to be held in our region. So pretty much anything goes. And again, if you've got questions about it, people can ring up and we can let them know if they're eligible or not.
To find out about the Garden and Art Festival, visit gardenartfest.co.nz. And to download your copy of Creative Beat or find out about a local event, visit creativetauranga.org.nz. Now for the weather for Friday. Hamilton, you have rain turning into showers in the afternoon. There is a chance of thunder and northeasterlies. Your expected high is 18 and an overnight low of 9. The rest of the Waikato, periods of rain and a northeasterly dying out. Paeroa, you have an expected high of 17 and an overnight low of 9. Matamata, 16 and 9. Te Awamutu, 18 and 9. And Tokoroa, 15 and 9. Tauranga, you can expect periods of rain with northeasterlies. Your expected high is 17 and an overnight low of 11. The rest of the bay, rain with some heavy falls and a few thunderstorms, especially before dawn. Northeasterlies there. Te Puke, you can expect a high of 16 and an overnight low of 11. That is Central News for today. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can by emailing us at news@tvcentral.co.nz or like us on Facebook, centralnews.tv. Tomorrow night, Dynamic Ceramics, the exhibition, and could the way we do business be changing? I'm Hilary Entwistle. I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.